Hello, my fellow Greywater holding tanks, I'm Mr. Church. Despite my therapist's misgivings, we've made it to another year. It's 2025. I've put over 8,000 hours into Fallout 76. I also try to be very honest and critical. I feel that I'm in a unique position to offer insight into one of the most controversial games in the Fallout franchise. I'm going to go through different aspects of the game and give my opinion on those things. At the end of the video, you can make your own decision for yourself. They always say the key to good writing is to write what you know, so I'm guessing the key to good ranting is probably the same. Of that 8,000 hours that I mentioned, the majority of it has been spent building. And when I say building, I mean trying to place items down that don't let you, and then you try to find a way to trick the game to letting you build. And then it doesn't work, so then you quit the game, you log off, you start playing something else. We're off to a good start, I can already tell. For some reason that I can't quite figure out, the building system in 76 is incredibly restrictive. And while having to find constant workarounds to do anything, it might be beneficial for a YouTube channel, for example, that does camp building tutorials or makes videos to show how to get your stuck items unstuck because you just ruined your camp otherwise. It isn't really beneficial to the player who's trying to have fun playing a video game. The thing about the crippling building restrictions that has always baffled me is that you can turn them off in custom worlds and build freely. And I have never known of any build in custom worlds causing any server lag, causing any issues, glitching out. They've shown that they can easily turn that off. I mean, in shelters, it's the same way. But for no reason, they don't do that. And I mentioned custom worlds, and I could actually make an entire video about that, so I'm going to try to be brief. But basically, it was a great idea, and it was poorly executed. And what ends up happening is no one really uses them, except to go and build by themselves, and then you don't really get to share your build with many people. They have to, be on your friends list, and then they have to have a slot available, because you can only have 5 slots to join any custom world. So you have to sync up to someone's custom world for that moment just to be able to look at their camp. So it's not really good for sharing your camps with other people. And that's one of the best things you can use it for. Obviously, if I spent 8,000 hours doing those things, despite all that stuff that I just mentioned, then I obviously find something enjoyable about it, or I have some trauma that I haven't worked through quite yet, and I find a creative way to cause pain to myself as a way to cope with that darkness that I try to suppress. But it has been something that I've spent a lot of time doing because I also enjoy doing it. I'm a creative person, and this is a really fun way to express myself. And I also enjoy the immersion of MMOs. I like it's not really role-playing, but I like imagining my character in that world, and it gives context to what I'm building. So also being able to build my camps in different areas of the map is one of my favorite things about it. You can look at a location and you can see, oh, a house would be so cool here, and then you can just build it. And as exciting as it is for someone to stumble across your camp, which is one of the most rewarding feelings when they find your camp and they're just giving you emotes to express their joy, it's also exciting to stumble across other people's. Sometimes when you find these in the world, it feels like you're discovering a new location. Now, there is a newish thing they added in September of last year called Best Builds. I made an entire video about this because, again, it was a good idea that they poorly executed. There's a lot of issues with it, but in short, it allows you to visit camps that people have submitted to this rotating, randomized thing, and you can go look at people's camps even if they're not online, and you can look around and peek at them. If you want to really get into the nitty-gritty of why they didn't really do a good job at making that a thing, feel free to check out that video. I'm going to link it in the description. If it wasn't for camp building, though, I don't know that I would still be playing. I might be, actually. There's some other stuff that I enjoy, too, and maybe it'll be in the next chapter. Fallout 76 has a main quest line, and then it kind of branches off that. They've added to the main quest line as they've added DLCs, and there's a bunch of side quests. If you're someone who's played for many years, you're not going to really have a whole lot to do in the way of quests, because you can do a lot of them very quickly and get it done over the years especially. But if you're just getting into the game in 2025, there is going to be a lot of quests to keep you busy for quite some time, and maybe until Christ returns from heaven with a shout. And a bunch of events that happen regularly where you can work together with other players to trigger an epileptic seizure, to unlock unique rewards and earn in-game currencies and stuff. It's good. It's great. Everyone loves it. It's fine. The game was pretty dry in the way of events for several years, but in 2021, Fallout 76 got a new dev team, and then it kind of took till that next year. And if nothing else, they have been regularly adding new stuff. Whether I like that stuff or not, they've added public events with new rewards, which is a pretty big thing if you've been playing for a long time. There were also changes made to legendary crafting, which I will cover a little bit later. But in short, players have a much higher incentive to do public events now because of specific rewards that they can get from doing them. And that generally means more players at events, which usually means a smoother time. It's more fun, except when that one guy is there. I've sounded pretty optimistic so far. I think we're doing well, but it's time to really put our big boy pants on and wade down into the waters of depth, depression, and hell. If I were to point to my biggest issue with Fallout 76 in 2025, it would be not only the way that Bethesda's monetization model has shifted over the years, but in addition to that, how they've continuously treated their community, which is one of the most loyal and supportive communities in video games of all time. I don't know. We're obviously live games. They need to make revenue to keep the servers up, to pay the developers 20 cents and pay Microsoft billions of dollars instead. But the unethical way it's been done repeatedly has become a bold-faced reminder of corporate greed and the disconnect between gaming communities and the higher-ups who are making most of these impactful decisions that are ruining everyone's lives.
Awesome. I'll take your money and you get the...
There's a couple of specific examples that I'm going to give, and the first one is the Atomic Shop. Now, like a lot of MMOs, Fallout 76 has an in-game store that they update regularly, and they put in a lot of cosmetic items, but also camp items that you can buy, outfits and skins and stuff like that. You can buy these things with currency called atoms, which you, of course, can only get by buying them with money. But there's you can earn a few on the scoreboard / season pass. I'll get into that a little bit later. But for the most part, if you're going to be buying most of the stuff, you're going to have to be spending real money. Keep in mind that while I'm talking about this, atoms are money. Those are money. Now, my biggest complaints isn't the steadily growing prices for everything, because I expect that to happen over time with inflation, and then you have other games getting away with the same kind of robbery, and they kind of set the market, if you will. Instead of competition, they're all regularly raising the prices. But for a few months now, I've been covering the weekly Atom Shop updates, which I have a playlist of if you want to go see some funny stuff. What has become a growing occurrence that I've seen, and I think this has probably just always been there and I never really noticed it until I was doing these review videos, there's a pattern of laziness, misinformation, misleading, and confusing advertising. Every single week, they display pictures out of order in bundles without properly labeling anything. And then the pictures will have multiple items in them, so you can't tell what you're buying. And that's one of the reasons I started doing these videos, is I buy this stuff, I go into the game so I can actually see what's in there, because you can't tell from this, which is not clear advertising. They sometimes will show items in the pictures that aren't included in the bundle. That happens actually quite a bit. And I have to go in there and point out, hey, this isn't in the bundle, this isn't in the bundle. And I've had people commenting saying they would have bought that if I hadn't said that, because they thought it was in the bundle, because it's so misleading. And I can accept that they're probably understaffed with the layoffs that have been going on and spread thin, but the Atomic Shop is the biggest way, probably, that the game pulls in revenue outside of maybe Fallout First. And it's also the biggest way that they interact with the player base on a weekly basis. So one would think that they would want to, I don't know, allocate a little more resources to ensure that the items they're selling are fully functional, clearly labeled, properly labeled, rather than looking like it was done by a 12-year-old on a time crunch. I mean, this is like, if you want to think about, this is your storefront, it's the face of the game, right? This is where you are putting stuff for people to see, okay? And you want it to look like dog shit, that's fine, I guess. If that's what you want to sell, then that's what it is. And the worst part about this misleading advertising and people buying stuff that doesn't even exist and being lied to and deceived, they've also started telling people arbitrarily that they have run out of refunds. So like, let's say you bought something and because they lied in the picture or were not clearly describing things, you want a refund of that, and it's happened before, that's your fault. So this account reached the max amount of refunds, so we're not doing that. Fuck you, basically.
No refunds or exchanges. You have fun with that charge card.
So let me get this straight. You fuck up this many times and it's my fault? Like, that's terrible customer service. And if you have an issue with someone's product multiple times, you would think that they would be trying to go above and beyond to mend that situation and to, I don't know, not lose you as a customer. Instead, you get spit in the face, clowned on, and they're just like this impersonal fuck you, have a nice day. That is unacceptable. In my opinion, it's probably illegal as well. I know there's certain parts of the world where it is illegal to not issue refunds on products. And so I don't know how that covers online spaces, but that is something that is disgusting that I see happening quite a bit. So they like to have these limited time things and they like to prey on people's FOMO. But do you know what else people could have FOMO about? Signing up for a class action lawsuit. You know what I mean? Now, to kind of piggyback off of that, because it's sort of related, they've had some for money bundles as well that have been for sale, and they were not available for atoms. You had to buy them with straight up cash. And one of the ways they sell these for cash bundles is by having exclusive stuff in those bundles that you can only get by getting that bundle. For example, there was the Pit Recruitment Bundle. And what they sold in there was this Fusion Core charger. This is at the time, was a new utility item. It didn't exist in the game. You couldn't get it, any skinned version of it anywhere else. You couldn't get it for atoms. You could only get it if you bought this bundle. And there's been, bundles like that before where some of the stuff, you never see that stuff again. So there's this illusion and implication that these items are going to be exclusive and limited time, which adds value to them, right? Wrong, because later they just added the same exact item to the Atom Shop. You could buy it in a bundle for atoms after people spent real money on that bundle for that utility item, which was a unique utility item that you couldn't get elsewhere in the game. It was the only thing in the game that charged your fusion cores. Now, I mentioned Fallout First. That is basically a monthly subscription that you can pay to have access to bonus content. Fallout First members, you get an unlimited storage for ammo, scrap, and junk, and you also have access to private servers, and if this also means you have access to creating your own custom worlds, which I already mentioned, and they're kind of dog water. Members will occasionally get access to free items or discounted exclusive items in the Atom Shop. Every month you get 1650 atoms to spend in the shop. The price is similar to other games with premium subscriptions, so like $12.99 a month or $99 a year. This is in USDs. You can compare this to Fortnite's $11.99 for the Fortnite crew. Elder Scrolls Online has a $12.99 a month for ESO Plus. I know those are both, ESO and Fallout are both ZeniMax, Bethesda. RuneScape has $13.99 a month for their membership. Anyway, overall, I don't really have a problem with Fallout First, personally, as a way that they're monetizing the game, especially because unlike ESO Plus, I don't feel that Fallout First is necessary to have it to play. And you could argue that this means you're not getting enough for what you're paying, but I think it's better if a subscription feels more like bonus content rather than a necessity to enjoy the game in full. Perhaps the most controversial thing that they've done monetization-wise recently was the recent changes to the scoreboard / battle pass. I don't know if we're still calling it a scoreboard because it's not a scoreboard anymore, but it used to be something that looked a bit like this, and you had 100 ranks on this scoreboard, and every single time that you ranked up by doing challenges in game, you could unlock a reward by clicking on it. If you had Fallout First, occasionally there were rewards that you would get in addition to those things. So you might rank up and you'd get 2 things instead of 1. So you had over 100 items that you could unlock in 100 levels. Now, the last thing on the scoreboard was always a big item, and you would also get 500 atoms, which is quite a bit. Now, 2 seasons ago, they changed this for whatever reason, and they made it into this thing that has pages, and you had to get a certain amount of ranks to unlock a page of items. The way that they sold this is by lying and saying that it would give the players more agency to choose the items that they were getting. This is just a lie. It's that there's nothing else you can call it, because the old scoreboard, you didn't have to get everything if you didn't want it. But if you wanted to, you could click on the stuff and get it, and it was all free. Okay, and you had 100 stuff in 100 levels. With the new system, they added another currency that you got from ranking up, and you had to spend this currency to unlock the stuff on the pages. Now, if you do the math out, what ends up happening is you actually have to hit rank 151 to have enough tickets to unlock everything on this new battle pass. So not only are you having to do half again as much stuff to get the same amount of items, you actually have less of a choice of the things you get because you're not guaranteed to get every item unless you really rank up really high. So telling people that this is to give the players more agency is just a flat out lie. It's an intentional deception of the player base to market it that way when that isn't what it is. You're trying to pretend you're adding a special thing that we didn't get to have before, which was the agency, the choice of whether or not we wanted items or what items we wanted. We always had that. You didn't have to click on the thing and claim it. In the old way, every level, you could get something. You had that feeling of instant gratification for ranking up. You had a reason to want to keep doing so. With this new system, you have to hit specific ranks to unlock new pages. So you can go ranks and ranks without getting to the page you want to get to. So you're not even getting close to the stuff that you're really looking forward to, and you're not feeling any sense of achievement or progress per level. I probably don't need to say this, but there also isn't a 500 atom reward like there used to be at the end of it. They just took that away completely. Once you get to the bonus page, which before, if you got to level 100, there would be bonus items that would circulate through. There were a lot of low value items, a lot of the consumables and stuff, but there were also atoms in there. And I want to remind you, this is something that you could unlock every time you ranked up after level 100 for free. You would click on it and you would get it for free. With this new system, there is a bonus page, but all the bonus items cost an insane amount of tickets, meaning you actually have to rank up many, many times to have enough tickets to click on a single thing here. So the lie that it gives the players more choice of what they're getting when you're actually getting far less for way more is just, it's actually appalling. Like to just straight out lie like that. And it's when it's just like so obvious that it's intentional. Now, if that wasn't bad enough, on top of that, we've got this tone deaf reaction from the monetization expert or whatever he's called. But this individual who Bethesda hired to steal as much of our money as possible so they could make more revenue for Microsoft, this person had the audacity, after the entire community is reacting negatively to this change, to go on Twitter and ask how people liked his new thing that he worked on. It's the biggest thing I've ever done. You know, and like he asked what people thought of it. But you could tell in the way that it was written that he wasn't actually looking for feedback. He was somehow wanting a pat on the back, which is just absolutely incredible. Imagine going to an elderly person's house, breaking in, ripping their purse out of their gnarled, clutching hands, taking their money out that they had to buy their beans, and putting it in your pocket. And then you say, oh, what did you think about that? That was like the best breaking and entering I've ever done. That was actually the first time I've done it. What did you think? And then she's like, I didn't really like that. You took my money and now I have less money than I did before you did that thing. And then he just ignores you. And he does this a bunch of times over and over. And eventually he finds someone who wants to suck on his... And they say, oh, I loved that you did that. Thank you. So then he says, oh, good. See, they like it. What this is called in the business is L plus ratio. You got ratioed, bitch. That means everybody hates your thing that you did. And so what did they do? He really took this to heart because the season after that, the exact same thing, but worse. And it's situations like this when the entire community is in an uproar about it and they just do it again and you're just like screaming at a wall that you really feel that disconnect between the community and the people making this game. And that's the thing. Things like that where you're treated in a way where you're not a human being anymore. That's the kind of thing that makes me not want to play a game. That's the kind of thing that makes me quit and go fishing. I don't like fishing. I always catch weeds and stuff. That's probably my biggest complaint right now with Fallout 76. And I understand that this is a problem in probably a lot of MMOs, a lot of corporations, with the way just the economy and people are, that these things are going to happen. But it is very disheartening as someone who loves a franchise to be spit on by the people that are now at the wheel. And for those watching who might be saying that I'm making a big deal about this, or maybe I'm hurting your feelings because you're the monetization director and you're watching this video, I don't think I could hurt your feelings. It seems that you don't really want to hear feedback. You just want someone to kiss you on the forehead. I'm not going to do that because you stole from the people that have been loudly and loyally supporting your game through the depths of hell. So that's not going to happen. It would be one thing if they just made this change because they need to pull in more revenue and they were like somewhat honest about it. But to just lie and just say that you're getting more when you're getting way less, and to say that you have the agency now when you always did, but now it's like it's the illusion of agency. You're not actually giving us more. You're giving us way less, and you know you are. Like, that's the point. That's why you did it, so that you can make more money. It's not even the thing that they changed that makes me upset. It's treating us like we're fucking stupid. Like we don't know that this is what you're doing and then lying about it. Like we're not 7 years old. You know what I mean? So that's the part that fills me with disgust and shame and revulsion. So that's what I have to say about that, and I hope you enjoyed. There's other things about this game though, so let's move quickly along to the next segment. As a bespectacled nerd, one of my favorite things about any MMO is creating and theory crafting fun character builds, usually, off-meta stuff. And Fallout 76 is really fun in that way as well. Unlike other Fallout games that I've played, like 4, for example, 76 has a unique character build system that's limited. It's basically a deck building game where you pick cards and you have a certain amount of cards that you can have equipped at a certain time, and this limits what you can do, which also forces you to find the most efficient combinations and the best way to min-max your build. Whereas on games like Fallout 4, you could just get every perk in the game and be God. This one, you have to find what stuff is best in combination with each other, and it's really fun. I have a playlist on my channel of some of the fun builds that I have made. I made a vampire build that became really strong at night, and then in the daytime actually got nerfed and was worse and weaker, just like a vampire would be. I made a naked tank build, which is pretty fun, and I made a bash damage build, which has subsequently been nerfed, but I'm trying to see if they can fix that because it made me cry. With recent focus on rebalancing combat and perks and legendaries, character building in Fallout 76 has been improving in my opinion, and it's something that feels fresh and exciting, and there's more stuff to tweak and work with and to fine-tune. And with some massive updates around the corner, it promises to become even more interesting. Bethesda games have been plagued by and known for their bugginess, but sometimes it's bugs that make these games more entertaining and maybe even endearing. 76 has had some doozies, though, since its launch. And while the game certainly runs smoother than it once did, and after just 4 years, they fixed a bug preventing players from, fast traveling and stuff, there's still quite a few bugs that will pop up now and then. I understand that part of this is simply because they're trying to run an MMO in 2025 on Windows 95, and that's not the whole issue, though. For whatever reason, I'm not sure what the reason is, but for the first several years after launch, 76 was not receiving any major bug fixes whatsoever. Besides the aforementioned fast travel bugs, there was a bug that you would become invincible, and this was when people were PvPing, so it was really stupid. There was even a PvP mode called Nuclear Winter, and you could do a lot of these bugs in that PvP mode. There was an unlimited reload glitch where you could have all your ammo without having to reload. I want to mention about that God mode glitch. This was only fixed after 4 years when players started using it to stack XP buffs and rip through the scoreboard in a day, which would of course allow them to start farming the atoms, the repeatable atoms, which would of course cost Bethesda the idea of money. They're not losing anything by people having atoms. That's just another small example of Bethesda, whoever is in charge there, deciding what they do, showing the community that they prioritize money over the player experience and over making a good game. And as I mentioned before, they did get a new developer team called Double 11. I don't know too much about them, admittedly, but I do feel that they have seemed more committed to finding and patching game-breaking bugs. But there's still many that plague the player base. There's a horrific lighting bug that's 100% replicable, and it hasn't been even acknowledged by any of the devs, even though I've been reporting it in the Bethesda Discord for a long time. It's just horrific looking. It's much worse on console, but it exists across all platforms. And I'm not sure about you guys, but I feel that in 2025, maybe the fucking graphics should be a priority. I'm not going to sugarcoat it either. I crash pretty regularly. It isn't usually a big deal. You can load back in fairly quickly. But when it happens right when an event is about to end and you don't get any rewards, it can be pretty infuriating. Overall, though, I feel optimistic that the developers that we have right now do seem to be working through a long list of trash that they're trying to fix, but only time will tell how much they can actually fix when they're dealing with a patchwork quilt of hand-me-down code from people who don't even work on the game anymore because they got fired or quit because of, I don't know why they quit. I can't remember what the reason was, but anyway, because a new dev team inherited all this trash, I do try to give them a little bit of leeway on that one. And I try to be optimistic that they're trying their best. I also do want to say that some of the developers in the Bethesda Discord are actually very good about communicating with the people that are giving them feedback about the PTS stuff that they're working on. And that's been really refreshing to see. And it means that at least some of the people that work there, I can tell they care about what they're doing and they care about making the game better, and they're actually listening to feedback and they're trying to do what they think the player wants, which is that's new around here. Kind of in relation to the new dev team, 76 has seen an increased effort in adding new content, especially since the Fallout show aired last spring on Amazon. These are just a few of the things that were added in the last year. For the first time since launch, Bethesda expanded the map, pushing the boundaries southward, giving us a new region called the Skyline Valley. This update came with 2 new public events as well, but surprisingly no new workshops, which I think means they're kind of moving away from like PvP related content and like PvP support and that kind of thing. Not that there ever was any of that. One of the fundamental aspects of the Fallout experience, in my opinion, is being able to wander and explore and find new places. And for those of us who have been playing since beta, we had nowhere new to go. If you think about like Fallout 4, they got like DLCs like Far Harbor and Nuka World. Those are new places where you could go if you were playing for a long time. And we just never had anything added. And I'm not going to say that the expeditions or the daily ops were anything like that, because those were very instanced and felt like instanced interiors. They didn't feel like a new place where you could go and build your camp and explore. This was huge for veteran players, and it was huge for camp builders. As one of my favorite parts of building, as I've already mentioned, is utilizing existing locations on the map. Having new places where we could build sparked my creativity. And for the first time in a long time, I was really excited to build. In the season following Skyline Valley, there was a massive overhaul to the legendary crafting system, giving players much more agency over putting together their gear than ever before. An actual agency, not just the illusion of agency, like they thought with this scoreboard. As character building is one of my favorite parts of 76, as I mentioned, I was really excited about this, and it remains one of my favorite things they've done to the game since launch. This greatly improved the ability to obtain the gear that you needed, to try out new stuff, experiment with things. For years, the RNG was so prohibitive, and like I actually did the math one time, and it like the chances of getting like a 3-star item that had like the exact role you wanted on the exact item you wanted, if you like farmed the game every day for the resources you need to like roll for it, it would take you like 5 years to get one item. So this greatly changed our ability to source gear, which also adds to the flexibility for us to play around with new kinds of builds and like try stuff out. And also freed up space, giving us time to do the things we really want to do. And as an extension to the changes to the legendary effects and whatnot, they also have been putting a lot of work into changing perk cards and rebalancing combat and improving old perk cards that were garbage, and just a lot of huge quality of life changes when it comes to like using perks and putting together character builds. And it is specifically the people that have been working on this stuff that I feel have been really good about interacting with the players, giving feedback in the PTS channels of the Bethesda Discord. And I've personally like said stuff that I've seen instantly get added to the next iteration of the PTS. Like they're actually like reading our messages, which is so weird. Imagine using a feedback channel to like get feedback instead of get a pat on the back. If you want an example of some of the perk cards that were changed, because it was actually quite a few, I made a whole video going over all the perk card changes, but I will say that in a coming update, there's going to be even more changes and more perk cards. So I'll probably make a video on that when that happens as well, but that will be in the description if you want to check that out. In December of 2024, we got the Gleaming Depths update. This brought with it something new called raids, which is more difficult content aimed at veteran players and sweaty people and stinky people. I just made up the last part. Structured kind of like a dungeon, the raids give players a much bigger challenge than they'll face elsewhere. And while it's great that there's been like so many continued things improving quality of life stuff and early game stuff for new players, which I saw a lot of that after the show, something that has been missing is more challenging content for veteran players who have been begging for it on all fours for years. And with this new challenging content, they also gave us new toys. In addition to revamping the perk cards and rebalancing combat, they also added 4-star legendaries with the Gleaming Depths. And now, because we have the new legendary crafting system, which allows you to put pieces of legendary modules together on an item, it's a lot easier to like put together the stuff you need so the 4-star effects are actually like viable to get the ones you want on the equipment you want it on. Currently, they are only farmable doing these raids, so you have to do the really hard stuff to get the really powerful things, but the module boxes are tradable, so you can buy them from other players if you aren't able to do the raids yourself, or if you're not getting the ones specifically that you're looking for. These new effects add an extra layer of versatility to the builds as well, and I think it's exciting to see this attention to the character building side of the game, and I'm looking forward to more changes like this. Looking into 2025, there's actually quite a few things that I'm excited about personally. Not only are they making changes to the Wrecking Ball perk, which is going to make advanced building a lot easier. I made a video on that, just going over the Wrecking Ball perk, and I explained in that video why it's going to be so beneficial for advanced camp building. But they also said that they're going to be giving the building menu a UI overhaul, which, believe me, it desperately needs it. I also hope that they'll keep console in mind, because adding a search tab would be really helpful, especially for PC players. It does require you knowing what the item is called, and it's not as easy to quickly type something up if you're playing on console. With the coming update this spring, we'll be getting a new public event, which has some nice spring-like themes, flowers and bees. Yum, 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 yum. Another thing that will be coming with the next big update is a bunch more combat changes, like I mentioned, and perk card changes, like I mentioned. They're adding a whole new mechanic to the game, which is currently being called Onslaught. I'm not sure if they'll change the name of that, but it's a new way to play, and it actually adds another viable playstyle that is kind of comparable in power to Bloodied. Having variable playstyles that are not Bloodied is going to be very important, because perhaps the biggest thing that's coming to the game in 2025 is player ghouls. For the first time in any Fallout game, we will have the choice to be able to play the game as a ghoul. Since ghouls will heal when taking rads, they will not be able to run bloody builds. In addition to having several new ghoul-oriented perk cards, ghouls also have 2 unique mechanics. Instead of a hunger and thirst bar, ghouls will have a feral meter, which will provide buffs and debuffs depending on how feral you are. For example, if you're fully feral, you'll do a lot more melee damage, but your weapon accuracy will be crap. Ghouls will also have something called glow, which can kind of be viewed as overhealth to their health bar, which can only be gained by taking rads while at full health. When taking damage, the glow bar will go down first before the health bar, making ghouls pretty tanky. There are also perks that give ghouls special buffs when their glow is high, and perks that consume glow to do extra damage. Obviously, the best part about it is the cosmetic look of just having a cutie patootie ghoul running around with a rotting face, and it's something I'm really excited about personally. Well, there's still a lot of details being ironed out. The ghoul character seems like it's going to be really fun and really exciting new way for people to play. It gives us a whole new options for character builds. Being immune to and healed by rads also makes ghouls super strong in nuke zones. So I've talked about a lot of stuff that I have issues with in the game, and I've been very honest. But if you're wondering why I'm still playing Fallout 76 after all this time with all these things happening, I do want to say that there is one massive part of this game that I haven't mentioned yet. I've played several online games since this one, but this one was my first online game. And I've never found any other community to be this wholesome or generally just kind. And I've seen that sentiment echoed a lot from new players or players that have been playing for a long time. Now, obviously, you're going to get bad eggs everywhere you go. And when I say bad, I mean rotten to the fucking core. Like most MMOs, part of the immersion is hearing new and exciting hate crimes in area chat, stuff you've never heard before, that you can, of course, hopefully report, and then they won't ban them. But I don't feel that it's as common in 76 as other games I've played, but let me be honest, it has had its moments. I have seen some interesting things, guys, especially at White Springs Station, and I've heard some things too. You know, trauma dumping is pretty interesting, but sometimes people do it when they don't even realize they're doing it because of the way they're acting. You can tell that, first of all, they need therapy really badly, but you can also tell that their parents just didn't love them at all whatsoever, and they're projecting this hatred that they've just kind of internalized since a child on other people, and it's actually pretty sad sad, pretty horrifying. It's not as horrifying when you blast him in the face with an explosive laser rifle, but it can be horrifying if you're just like listening to it too much. There's also problem in 76 with scamming, which I don't feel like people talk about enough. And it's always had a problem with scamming because the trade system does not have a two-party confirmation like most MMOs have. And scamming would be completely avoidable and preventable if this was a thing. All you have to do is make both people say yes before the trade goes through. That way, one person doesn't put something up for 0, the other person take it and run away. So you have a lot of scamming that happens in trades, and that's pretty terrible. But the reason why I bring it up now in my talk about the community being so good is this has actually led to another example of the 76 community being goated and picking up the ball that Bethesda dropped on this one. There are multiple groups now online solely dedicated to assisting with trades, and most of them keep records of known scammers as well, so you can check to see if the person you're about to trade with has scammed people before, and they share their information with each other. Everyone's got this spreadsheets of scammers going around, and the people in these groups are vetted people that they just take time out of their day to go in and help people. They moderate trades, so both people will give them the items and then they'll redistribute them. And obviously this system requires time and effort by people choosing to want to help other people out. So it does show that there is good in this world, Master Frodo, and it's worth fighting for, or whatever I said before I picked you up in a completely non-romantic manner and carried you up to Mount Doom. It's pretty good. It's good to see that despite their best efforts, we're still trying to have a fun time playing this game. Another example of the type of people who make up the Fallout community, Kenneth Vigue, creator of the Chad, a Fallout 76 story podcast, founded Fallout for Hope, a charity initiative uniting Fallout streamers, creators, and community leaders in the goal of raising money for different organizations, including St. Jude's Children's Hospital, The Longest Day, Make-A-Wish, the American Heart Association, and many more. Since 2020, the Fallout community through Fallout for Hope has raised over $525,000 for different charities. If you're interested in learning more or donating yourself, I'm going to link their website below in the description. If you're newer to the game and you're looking for a community to be a part of within the greater Fallout 76 community, I would direct you towards a Twitch streamer named Ma Tater for a very wholesome and welcoming stream, and a lot of people in the community view her as the unofficial matriarch of the Wasteland. She doesn't know that, but she will when she watches this video. I would be remiss to not mention that I also have a Discord server if you want to join and meet new people. Pretty cool place. All the links for those things are going to be in the description. Just check below if you want. I'm not forcing you to do anything, okay? Just... Well, that was a doozy, wasn't it? It took 3 hours, but we made it through. And if you're one of the people that like scrubbed ahead because I put like timestamps and stuff, that's fair. That's fine. I would have done the same thing. I hope I gave you enough information to try to begin to make some kind of educated decision based on the information in this video. I'm not trying to convince you to play the game or not play the game. That wasn't the point. I just wanted to share my honest opinion and thoughts, and you can make your decision for yourself because you're an individual human being with free will. I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to my patrons and channel members for your support. Wouldn't be able to make all these videos without that support, and I do post exclusive content to the Patreon. If you're interested in supporting me in that way, the link for that will be in the description. I also stream on Twitch, and the link for that is also in the description. And I'll see you guys in the next video.